Fritz Albert Popp measured something that conventional physics cannot accommodate. The DNA in every living cell emits coherent photons that ignore the barriers of space. Your body, this very second, is exchanging light with a field where past, present, and future occupy the same point. You process this as a sequence because your nervous system slices reality into linear fragments to avoid collapsing under the raw volume of simultaneous information. That filtering shaped entire civilizations. Calendars, deadlines, 5-year plans, all built on a neurological edit that no one has audited in millennia.
Neville Goddard mapped the mechanics 6 years before frontier physics measured the structure. Creation is finished.
Every coordinate already exists, and what you call waiting is attention locked on the wrong frequency. The field does not recognize distance between you and what you desire. The only thing that does is the filter you never knew was running.
There is a question that should keep anyone awake at night. Why do you feel time passing? It seems obvious. It seems silly. But the answer hides something that can dismantle everything you believe about your life. Linear time, that clock ticking second by second, that calendar turning page after page, month after month, is not a law of the universe. It is a filter inside your brain. A biological survival mechanism. And when you understand what that really means, the way you see your own existence changes completely. Think of a film projector. It takes a continuous strip and cuts it into 24 frames per second. Each frame is a frozen image. On its own, it tells no story. But when the projector spins fast enough, your eye stitches the frames together and sees movement, sees life. Your brain does exactly this with reality. It takes the simultaneous flow of everything that exists and slices it into tiny pieces. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. It lines them up single file, one event behind the other, because without that line, the raw volume of information would destroy your ability to process anything. You would crash. Your nervous system would short circuit. The edit runs so deep that questioning it feels like questioning your own eyes. We do not live in time. We live inside an edit. Our nervous system is the editor, and like every editor, it cuts, rearranges, and hides material that does not fit the final version. The material it hides is precisely the simultaneous present, the raw reality where all moments exist at the same time, stacked on the same point. For decades, frontier physicists have been investigating a layer of reality that operates outside these linear rules. Lynn McTaggart compiled those experiments into what she called the zero-point field, an ocean of energy that permeates every centimeter of space, every particle, every atom in your body. And in that field, one thing deeply disturbs traditional models. Information does not need time to travel. It simply is, at every point, at the same time. Let that land. The distance between two objects in that field is an illusion as large as the gap your calendar insists on placing between Monday and Friday. Physicists call this phenomenon non-locality. In practice, it means 2 points separated by millions of kilometers exchange information instantaneously. No cable. No signal traveling, no delay. The information does not travel a road. It appears at both points at the same time, as if the separation between them were a joke that nature tells and only we take seriously. If information does not need time to move, what does that say about the past and the future? It says they are not behind or ahead of you. They are stacked right here. Now. In the same millisecond, your eyes are passing over these words. The only reason you do not notice is because your biological projector is running the frames at a speed that creates the perfect illusion of sequence. The trick is so well done that nobody stops to question the operator in the booth. We grew up hearing, that tomorrow is a place we will reach if we walk far enough, if we work hard enough, if we sweat it out and wait in line. That idea is so deeply embedded in our culture that it feels like absolute truth, but it does not survive an honest examination when you look at what happens at the deepest level of matter. Fritz Albert Popp found that the DNA inside every living cell emits photons, particles of coherent light. Your cells are emitting light right now. Those emissions do not respect the barriers of space. They communicate with the field directly, continuously, and instantaneously. Your body, at this very moment, is exchanging light with an ocean of information that does not know what a clock is. That changes something brutal about the way we think about waiting. When someone sets a goal and starts chasing it, the automatic assumption is that a road exists between point A and point B, a long road full of obstacles, demanding years of effort and patience. But if the field already contains every coordinate of information, including the one where your goal has already been reached, the road is a mirage. The delay you feel between asking for something and seeing it materialize is not a real distance to be traveled. It is the time it takes for your attention to tune to the right frequency. It is like turning the dial on an old radio. The station is already broadcasting. The music already exists in the air. You do not need to build the transmission tower or manufacture the sound waves. You just need to find the exact point on the dial where the static stops and the sound comes through clean. Our job, within this logic, was never to manufacture results. It was always to adjust the tuning. And that realization carries a consequence that stings. If tomorrow is not a distant place, but a frequency available now, the entire architecture of effort, sacrifice, and waiting that we were taught since childhood needs to be questioned at its root. The direction of the effort was inverted the entire time. We spent decades of our lives trying to build the future brick by brick, and the future was already built, waiting for someone to turn the dial. If time is an edit and the future already exists now, the next logical step should be disturbing. Where is everything you have not yet lived? Where exactly are all the possibilities your life can still take stored? The most honest answer anyone ever gave to that question came from a man who never set foot in a physics lab. Neville Goddard, born in Barbados at the start of the 20th century, spent decades teaching a principle that defied every notion of common sense. Creation is finished. Everything that ever existed, everything that exists now, and everything that will ever exist is already done. Complete, with no piece missing. He did not say this as poetry. He said it as an operational instruction. You are not called upon to manufacture things. All things already are. The entire creation is already finished. I am merely becoming aware of it. The entire world runs on the opposite premise. You want something, you work, you build, you wait, you hope, and maybe one day it arrives. That operating system has been running for centuries without anyone auditing it. The zero-point field, documented by McTaggart, is not just an ocean of energy. It operates like a hologram, a quantum hologram, where every fragment contains the information of the whole. Carl Pribram, a neuroscientist who spent his entire life studying how the brain stores memories, reached a conclusion that troubled him. The brain does not store information in fixed compartments. It distributes memories through wave interference patterns, exactly like a hologram. And Walter Schempp, the mathematician who developed the foundation of magnetic resonance imaging, proved that this same holographic principle operates in the field. The brain, within this model, stops being a locked vault that accumulates data. It becomes a receiver that tunes into pre-existing patterns. The difference is enormous. A vault needs to be filled piece by piece over the years. A receiver only needs the right frequency. This means something very concrete. The field already contains every possible configuration of your life. Every version, every outcome, every scenario. They all exist as wave pattern information, stacked in the same space, available at the same instant. Goddard described this 60 years before the experiments McTaggart compiled. He said that all of creation coexists in an infinite and eternal now. What we call creativity is just receptivity. You do not invent anything from scratch. You tune into something that is already there. Can you feel the weight of that? Think of a vast digital archive with billions of folders. Each folder holds a complete version of your life. The version where the financial problem was solved. The version where the body healed. The version where the relationship worked. All those folders exist now. The archive is not being built while you wait. It came ready from the factory. What changes is which folder is open on your screen. And what determines which folder opens? Your attention, your focus, the internal state you sustain at this exact second. This is what they taught us wrong our entire lives. They told us that to change external reality, the recipe was brute physical action. Move the world out there. Build the scenery brick by brick with your own hands. Wake up early, sleep late, repeat the cycle for years until the body cannot take it anymore. And we obeyed. We spent decades pushing walls that did not need to be pushed. Manifesting within this system is selecting. Your attention works like a cursor on a computer screen. Whatever you click on repeatedly gets highlighted. The operating system of the universe does not judge what you select. It does not filter good desires from bad ones. It simply delivers whatever you focus on with the most consistency. And consistency does not come from mechanical repetition. It comes from the emotional state that accompanies the focus. When you think of the goal and feel anxiety, the cursor is pointing at the scarcity folder. When you think of the goal and feel the relief of someone who already resolved the matter, the cursor jumps to another coordinate in the field. The folder changes. And with it, the scenery the universe projects in front of you changes. Same person, same body, same universe around you. The only thing that changed was the emotional instruction sent to the field. I realized I had been clicking on the wrong folder my entire adult life. If everything already exists, the fight with the external world loses its point. You do not need to convince reality to manufacture something new for you. The order is not being processed on some cosmic assembly line. The product is in stock. It always was. The only variable is whether you walk to the right shelf or stay standing in the wrong aisle complaining about the delay. Our problem was never ability. It was address. We kept knocking on the wrong door and blaming the universe for not answering. What Goddard taught, and what the 0-point field validates in its infrastructure, is that changing doors does not require years of walking. It requires a decision about which mental state you will occupy now, this second. Without asking the calendar for permission, the choice is happening right now. The only question is whether you are choosing consciously or letting autopilot repeat the same folder as always. Most people carry a definition of desire that works like an invisible trap. Since childhood, you absorb the idea that wanting something is proof that you do not have it. Lack generates desire. Desire confirms lack. And you stay trapped in a cycle where the simple act of wanting is already a confession of defeat. Goddard demolished that structure with a single phrase: desire is born from contact, not from emptiness. When you feel a genuine desire, not a whim, not envy, but that deep impulse that seems to come from a place you cannot name, what is happening is the opposite of what you were taught. You are picking up the presence of something that already exists in the field and that just touched your perception. The signal reached you. Every desire I had ever dismissed as wishful thinking suddenly carried a different weight. If creation is finished and every version of your existence coexists now, desire functions as a radar. It points to a coordinate loaded with information that your mind just intercepted. It is a warning, a silent alert saying, "This version of your life exists." I found it. Your mind brushed against the frequency of that version of you that already lives the entire result. Desire is the confirmation that the bridge was already built. Now pay attention. At the cellular level, this becomes visible. Cells emit biophotons, pulses of coherent light that carry information. DNA functions as the central antenna of the organism, emitting and receiving these signals continuously. Every cell in your body is in permanent dialogue with the zero-point field. McTaggart documented that this exchange of light between DNA and the field ignores the barriers that classical physics imposes. The communication is instantaneous. The entire body operates as a transmission and reception system that runs 24 hours a day without you noticing, and what it transmits depends on a single factor: the vibrational state you sustain. Fear, relief, anxiety, peace. Each state emits a different signature. Think of a satellite dish on a rooftop. It does not manufacture the television channels. They are already being broadcast. The dish just decides which channel appears on the screen depending on the frequency it is calibrated to. Change the frequency, change the channel. The entire programming already exists in the air. Your body works with the same logic. DNA picks up from the field whatever matches your internal calibration. Change the calibration, and the screen of your life changes with it. Most people freeze right here. What do you do in the instant after desire? That detail decides everything. When desire arises and the first reaction is to look at the empty bank account, the sick body, the situation that has not changed, what happens at the cellular level is devastating. The focus on absence generates an electromagnetic emission pattern that the field reads as an instruction. The universe reads signals, not intentions. The signal that a stressed, anxious body fixed on scarcity emits is always the same. Repeat the current scenario. The loop closes, the situation repeats, and the person swears the problem is bad luck. We were conditioned to trust the five senses as the supreme source of truth. If the eyes see the empty account, that is real. If the body feels pain, that is final. If the environment around you has not changed, the automatic conclusion is that nothing worked. The eyes show the past, not the present. The photograph was already taken. The physical environment surrounding you right now is the crystallized residue of your previous mental instructions. The leftovers, the echo of a frequency you already transmitted, and every cycle of repeated negative emotion reinforces that old imprint. What you see today is the result of what you felt yesterday. What you feel now is generating what you will see tomorrow. The timeline is not in front of you like a road to walk. It is assembling itself around you in real time, responding to the signal your body transmits this second. Every sustained emotion is a work order sent to the field. The rule within this system is cold and non-negotiable. Ignore what your eyes show you now. The current scenario is a late report, a bank statement from a month that already passed. Reacting to the visible present is like driving while looking in the rearview mirror. The scenery is already behind you. The one with authority over the next cycle is the internal state you decide to sustain from this point forward. Forcing the body to feel the relief of someone who already resolved the matter is frequency reprogramming. It is changing the channel on the antenna. When that relief settles into the nervous system, not as hope, but as quiet certainty, the emission pattern of the DNA changes. The field receives a different instruction, and the scenery around you reorganizes. The key turns. No noise, no visible effort. The way we read desire was jamming the gears from the start. We treated the radar as proof of distance when it was always proof of proximity. There is a staircase that all of us have been climbing since we first learned to want something. First comes desire, then planning, then action, then waiting, then more action. And maybe, if everything goes well, the result shows up at the end. Step by step, no shortcut. The law of assumption, which Goddard taught as the central engine of his system, destroys that entire staircase. The instruction is direct. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled now. Feel in your body, this very second, the relief, the gratitude, the naturalness of someone who already lives the result. No intermediate steps, no action plan, no 20 stages separating the point where you are from the point where you want to be. The law of assumption aims at a target most people overlook entirely: the subconscious. And the subconscious has a blind spot that changes everything. It cannot tell the difference between something you see with open eyes and something you sustain with intensity in your imagination. To the subconscious, both stimuli are identical. If you construct a mental scene with enough sensory detail and sustain it with conviction, the subconscious registers it as accomplished fact. From that registration onward, the entire internal machinery begins to operate as if the result already happened. I had spent years negotiating with my conscious mind. The target was never the conscious mind. Our subconscious is running all the time. It controls heart rate, digestion, breathing, hormonal patterns, the posture our body assumes when walking into a room, and it does all of this based on the instructions it absorbed. If the dominant instruction is, "I still have not achieved it," every system in the body organizes around that premise. If the instruction shifts to, "I already resolved it," the entire physiology recalibrates. Goddard mapped a mental state where this reprogramming happens with minimum resistance. He called it SATS, the state akin to sleep. It is that exact point between wakefulness and sleep when the body has already relaxed, but the mind is still conscious. In that interval, the critical mind lowers its guard. The filter that normally rejects impossible information shuts off for a few seconds, and the subconscious sits exposed, receptive, ready to absorb any instruction you feed into it. Think of it as a back door into the operating system. During the day, the brain runs with dozens of security filters activated. It questions, analyzes, doubts, compares. At the border of sleep, those filters switch off one by one. And in that narrow window, you can plant an instruction straight into the root of the system without the internal watchdog blocking the entry. The instruction Goddard teaches you to plant is simple: a short scene in first person that implies the wish fulfilled. You visualize the after, not the process. The hand holding the signed document, the celebratory embrace, the balance on the screen. A 5-second scene, repeated in a loop until the body relaxes into the certainty that it already happened. Sensory detail is what anchors the scene. The touch of the paper, the warmth of the hug, the sound of a voice saying congratulations. The more senses involved, the deeper the impression on the subconscious. The second piece of this mechanism operates at the quantum level. Focused consciousness, directed with intention, influences the behavior of particles. Probability waves that exist in a state of potential collapse into concrete configurations when a conscious observer interacts with them. The field responds to directed attention. What happens when the two pieces fit together? When you sustain the certainty of the result in the state between wakefulness and sleep, two things happen at the same time. The subconscious absorbs the instruction as fact, and your baseline electromagnetic emission, that continuous signal your body transmits to the field, shifts pattern. The field reads this new emission and reorganizes the probabilities around it. What was previously in a wave state, floating between possibilities, collapses toward the result you imprinted on the subconscious. Notice what this does to the concept of delay. Delay only exists when the operator believes they need to travel a distance between where they are and where they want to go. The law of assumption eliminates that distance. You install yourself in the result first, internally, and the physical environment adjusts after. The order is inverted. The interior commands, the exterior obeys. The chronic anxiety of trying to achieve loses traction against the solidity of someone who already recognizes themselves in the final state. Trying keeps the focus on absence, while recognizing installs the body in the result. And the subconscious responds to what you feel with the most consistency, not to what you desire with the most force. The difference shows up in the body. Someone still trying carries tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest, racing thoughts. Someone who has already assumed the result breathes more slowly, speaks more calmly, makes decisions with less rush. This is a thermostat. You set the internal temperature. The system around you works to match the environment to what you set. If the thermostat reads scarcity, the environment cools. If it reads abundance, the environment warms. You do not need to heat the room manually, degree by degree. You just need to set the thermostat and let the machinery do the work. The staircase they taught us to climb step by step is an illusion of control. The real control lies in the state you assume before taking the first step. There is a phrase that most people repeat without realizing it works like a prison sentence. What's done is done. That phrase sounds like practical wisdom. It sounds like maturity. But within the mechanics, we have been dismantling. Throughout this script, it is one of the most expensive lies anyone can believe. The past is not over. It is running right now, this second, inside your head. Every memory that still carries an emotional charge is active like an open program in your system. It consumes energy. It takes up processing space. And more importantly, it emits a continuous signal to the field. If the memory carries fear, the signal is fear. If it carries shame, the signal is shame. That old signal mixes with your intentions today and contaminates every attempt at change. You try to move forward, but the signal from the past pulls you back. Every unresolved emotional pattern living in your memory is an active transmitter. Your body may be directing attention toward the future, but the old signal keeps broadcasting in the background, like a forgotten radio left on in the corner of the room. McTaggart compiled a body of data on the nature of memory that redefines what we call the past. Memory does not work like a file stored inside a cerebral drawer. Carl Pribram, a neuroscientist who dedicated decades to studying how memories are stored, discovered something disturbing. The brain distributes memories as wave interference patterns, just like a hologram. Pribram spent years removing portions of rat brains in the laboratory to find out where memory was stored. Even with large areas removed, the rats still remembered the maze paths. Memory was spread across the entire brain structure, encoded as a resonance pattern. When you remember something, you are recreating a resonance pattern in real time. That information demolishes the idea of a fixed past. If memory is a resonance pattern recreated every time you access it, it is vulnerable to editing. Every time you remember a traumatic event, you are rebuilding that pattern, neuron by neuron, in the present moment. And if the pattern is being rebuilt now, it can be rebuilt differently. The cement I always thought I was trapped in turned out to be wet clay. The question is how? Goddard structured that possibility into a technique he called revision. The instruction is surgical. Before sleep, choose a past event that still carries negative weight. Close your eyes. Reconstruct the scene in your mind, but this time replace the outcome with the result you wish had happened. Change only the ending. The conversation that ended in a fight ends in agreement. The bad diagnosis becomes a clean result. The rejection becomes acceptance. Repeat this new version until the body relaxes, until the muscles release, until the breathing becomes slow and deep. What happens in that process? The subconscious absorbs the new version as if it were the original record. The resonance pattern of that memory changes its signature. And the signal it used to emit to the field, that old signal of fear or shame, loses strength. Every repetition of the revised scene weakens the old pattern and strengthens the new one. The body gradually releases the tension tied to that memory. The shoulders drop, the jaw relaxes, the subconscious is swapping the file at its root. Think of this as the source code of a program. If software shows an error on screen, you can try to fix the visible error by clicking buttons and closing windows. Or you can open the source code and fix the faulty line at its root. Revision operates at the root. It goes to the line of code where the problem was first written and rewrites it. The error on screen disappears on its own because the instruction that generated it no longer exists. Financial blocks, destructive relationship patterns, inexplicable fears that seem to have no origin. They all have a source code, an original memory that feeds them. An old scene running on loop in the basement of your mind, emitting the same signal as always to the field. Revision locates that scene and rewrites it. We carry these patterns for decades without questioning them. We accept that the past is dried cement, that personal history is a block that defines who we are forever. And we build our entire identity around those marks. Patterns that come from years, decades, entire generations of repetition. Nobody told us the code could be edited. What Goddard and the holographic structure documented by McTaggart reveal is the direct opposite of that belief. The past is as malleable as the present. It exists as a wave pattern in the field, and wave patterns can be rewritten by any consciousness that knows how to access them. The night before sleep is the window. The state between wakefulness and sleep opens the access. And the repetition of the revised scene prints the new instruction onto the subconscious. My own blocks suddenly had an address, a line of code I could locate. When the foundation of a building is compromised, renovating the facade does not solve it. You can paint the walls, replace the furniture, install new windows. The building keeps cracking. Revision works on the foundation. It goes down to the point where the first crack appeared and repairs the structure. The entire building stabilizes from there. Our past obeys our focus today. Fixing the foundation fixes the entire present. The most dangerous word within this entire system is a word that most people consider positive: hope. Goddard was direct. Hoping is the silent confession that the object of your desire is not yet in your possession. Whoever hopes is looking at a point in the future and admitting, with every fiber of the body, that it has not arrived yet. The field reads that signal with surgical precision. If your internal state says, "I still do not have it," the field's response is to maintain the distance between you and the result. Hope, within this mechanics, works like an anchor driven into the exact place where you do not want to stay. The word landed in my chest like the exact anchor he described. We were raised to believe that hope is a virtue, that hoping with faith is the noblest act a human being can practice. Hope carries a signature of absence. It keeps the distance between operator and goal alive. And in the non-locality documented by McTaggart, distance is fiction. Information does not need to travel from one point to another. It already exists at every point at the same time. If distance is fiction, what justifies the wait? The final step in this system is to rip the word waiting from your internal vocabulary and replace it with a single word, recognition. Manifesting within this framework stops being a hunt. It stops being a race toward a finish line. It becomes an act of quiet recognition. You recognize without anxiety and without rush that your desire is already a living fact in the field, that it already occupies the same informational coordinates as you, that the separation between the two of you is an illusion generated by the biological projector that slices reality into sequential frames. Imagine two coordinates on a map. You believe you are at coordinate A and your desire is at coordinate B, miles away. Everything we have presented throughout this script demonstrates that A and B are the same point. The separation is a projection of the temporal filter that the brain applies to continuous reality. Feel the weight of that inversion. What your five senses show you right now must be subordinate to what you decided in your imagination. If the bank account says one thing and your internal decision says another, the internal decision takes precedence. If the diagnosis says one thing and your instruction to the subconscious says another, the instruction takes precedence. The five senses report the past. Imagination commands the present. We spent our entire lives inverting that hierarchy. We let the eyes take charge. We let the visible scenery dictate what we feel. And by feeling in accordance with what we see, we emit to the field the instruction to repeat exactly the same scenery. The cycle repeats. Day after day, year after year. Every time the eyes dictate what the body feels, a new instruction of repetition is sent to the field. Every time imagination takes command, an instruction of change is sent. Recognition breaks that cycle at its root. When you assume with your entire body that the result is already an accomplished fact, three things happen. Anxiety loses its foundation because anxiety is the product of the perceived distance between where you are and where you want to be. The body's electromagnetic emission shifts pattern because the internal state changed, and the field reorganizes the probabilities around that new emission because that is how it operates, responding to the most consistent signal it receives. The universe responds to whoever feels with the most stability, not to whoever asks with the most intensity. The delay timer hits zero. It loses its meaning. Because within non-locality, there is no path between point A and point B. There is only the recognition that the 2 points were always the same point. I tested this on the one thing I had been chasing the longest. The distance collapsed the moment I stopped measuring it. That is the synthesis of everything we dismantled across these 6 chapters. Linear time is a neurological filter. Creation is finished in the field. Desire is a radar that detects what already exists. The law of assumption reprograms the subconscious to accept the result as fact. Revision edits the source code of the past. And recognition dissolves the illusion of waiting. The entire system demands one thing: a decision about which instance of your life holds the position of command. Anchor your mind in the certainty of now. The present is the only engine capable of generating your reality. Goddard and McTaggart mapped, each in their own way, the two faces of the same coin. Goddard mapped the internal operation, how consciousness selects states and prints instructions onto the subconscious. McTaggart documented the external infrastructure: the zero-point field, the quantum hologram, the non-locality that makes the entire mechanics viable. Both sides fit together. The hardware of the universe supports the software of human consciousness. Goddard understood that the secret lies in silencing the projector that slices reality into frames and installing the mind in the eternal now. Today, you can access that same state with audio tools built on frequencies that anchor the nervous system in the continuous present, shutting down the noise of anxiety and linear waiting. To discover how to activate this portal and get immediate access, click the link on the screen or in the comments. If this video resonated with you, write in the comments, "It made sense to me,"